Hey class, and welcome to this week's lesson, Lesson 8. Hopefully you're getting the hang of the group work. Hopefully Lesson 7 went okay. You were able to figure out who was going to submit it, got it submitted. One thing I'll give you just kind of a little pointer is that some groups, they've tackled the whole who submits the assignment each week differently. Some groups have decided that one person's going to do it for the whole project. Some groups have decided each week we're going to rotate to kind of give everybody an opportunity. However you choose to do that, that is up to you and your group, and that is totally fine. Just make sure, what I would recommend is if you are rotating, make sure at the beginning of the week it is very clear who is submitting it. Nothing is worse than like the end of the week when all of a sudden your assignment doesn't get submitted and the gradebook automatically gives you that 0 and you're like, hey, I thought so-and-so was submitting that. Well, no, I did it last week. It was this person's turn. So just make sure at the beginning of the week it's very clear who's going to be doing that. One thing I did want to kind of call out, I will be lenient on assignments getting submitted late for these group assignments, only because I want to be sympathetic to the fact that you guys are spread out across the world. I mean, you're not just in different time zones like a couple hours or an hour or something like that. I mean, you are literally across the world. You're days apart, 12 hours apart, you know. And so if for some reason something gets submitted late because, you know, you were waiting on a response from someone and you didn't get it until Sunday and you don't submit it till Monday, that's fine. Just shoot me an email, say, hey, this is what happened, this is why it's late. I'll go ahead and take the late penalty off. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing this week at the group lesson. We're going to be learning about graphing, how to create graphs in Excel, how you take data in Excel and make a graph, which is a great tool to learn. I can't tell you how often I make a graph in Excel to be able to visualize and show data. Having a bunch of numbers, as you'll see, when you're doing the exercise, you've got this table just full of numbers. When you look at the table, it's just like, oh great, that's a bunch of numbers, right? It doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's hard to decipher, it's hard to analyze, understand what what the data is telling you. You plot that in a graph, and there's different graphs for different things. And you put it in a graph, and all of a sudden it makes it visual. Now you can see your data. You probably have heard that term before, right? You can see your data, and all of a sudden it means something completely different. And you'll see what I mean when you do this week's exercise. The data will just kind of pop out to you. You'll be able to realize differences and stuff that maybe you didn't see when you were just looking at just numbers. So it's a great tool to learn. Kind of to reiterate what I said last week, even if you got one person submitting it, make sure you're working on it individually so that way you're learning these skills, because it is a great tool to have in your pocket when you go to work for someone someday. One thing I did want to kind of call out, sometimes in groups, you know, there tends to be one person that likes to do all the work, like maybe they have experience with it, and so the group wants to lean on, like, oh, so-and-so already knows how to do this, just have them do it. I would encourage you to, you know, try and get out of your comfort zone, and even if you're not the most experienced person in doing it, maybe say, hey, I want to give it a shot. Can I take a shot first and then show the group and then see what everyone else thinks? Try and get out of your comfort zone. And if you feel like you're not getting to, you know, speak up to your group and say, hey, you know, I'd really like to try this. You're in school to grow and to learn. So it doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you don't get involved and you kind of just take a back seat and let other people in your group do the work for you. In the end, sure, you're going to get the grade. You might get the good grade that they get. And it's like, oh, sweet, I'm glad I had so-and-so on my team because now I got a good grade. But what happens when you go to your first job and you've put on your resume, you know how to graph in Excel, and your boss asks you, hey, can you make some graphs of this, this, and this? And you're like, I actually didn't do that work when I went to, you know, somebody else in my group did it. So that's what I'm saying. It's good to try it yourself. Make sure that you're learning these skills so that way you don't get stuck in that kind of situation. But yeah, that's all we got for the group project this week. Shoot me an email if you're having issues or if you have any questions on it. Math is kind of going to be like last week, where the math actually goes along with the group project, which is nice. And that we will be learning how to graph math equations. Fun, right? It'll be a little bit different than making like a bar chart or something like that in Excel. It's going to be taking a math equation and creating a line, which does not sound super interesting, but it can be. And you'll be practicing on that. So I know it sounds silly, like, oh, I'm going to graph a line on a chart. but in reality, it can be kind of complicated. So make sure that you're paying attention, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself, or if you need to get with a tutor, reach out to them. So that's all I got for you this week. Trying to keep these videos around 5 minutes, so I'm going to cut it right there. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week.